So I have been working for the past 4 to 5 hours trying to come up with the best strategies to speed farm Akamori the Phantom Shogun's Grove, which is going to be a new accessory dungeon coming live into the game in the foreseeable future, which I did actually cover in a recent video showing the crazy potential of Gnut, the current fusion champion, absolutely annihilating this boss in a speed farm composition that can be done in 20 seconds. Now, that team was consisting of Riho Bonespear, who's kind of a one-of-a-kind champion, where she could place multiple debuffs that we need to coincide with a cleanse and a heal to take off those enfeebled debuffs and the decreased defense that this boss likes to transfer everywhere, and it's definitely a tedious encounter. So what I've been working on is some alternations to the teams, right? I've been putting in some epic champions, trying to play to the boss's mechanics where you use the blessings on champions to reduce the counters on this boss, so then he doesn't get some benefits from that counter getting risen, which we will break down in more detail in today's video. And as promised, I'm also going to be breaking down the changes to the Stoneskin gear, which was interacting in a weird way, where you could put Stoneskin on a single champion and then basically stop every single skill that the boss does and only focus A1s on that in particular target. Which of course in an ideal world we would all love it to happen, but they was never going to let a new boss be interactive in this way because he wasn't using his A3, he wasn't using his A2, and they've just decided to still have some benefits of having Stoneskin, but change the way that you could basically cheese this boss, which wasn't intended in the first place. But I will be breaking that down in the second segment of this video of exactly how it's going to be working once it goes live into the game. But what I do want to do is break down the fundamentals of this boss. So what Akamori is going to do is, he's going to open up with his A3 with the Forest of Spears, attacking the enemy with the highest crit damage. So that could be your tank or your reset or whoever you want to choose to put that on. And before attacking, will place a block passive skills debuff on all enemies for 3 turns. This debuff cannot be removed, resisted or blocked. But Stones can actually stop this block passive skills from happening on those particular champions when they use the A3. Which is a plus side, right? If you want to bank on using passive skills, maybe put them in a 2 turn of Stoneskin, block this off, and you'll be well on your way to use those. Unless he cycles round to it again and it falls off, right? But for that initial setup phase. After attacking, we'll then place an unfeebled debuff on that target enemy, so the one with the highest crit damage, for 3 turns. And this cannot be removed, resisted, or blocked. And there is going to be a way to cleanse this, but only on your other allies. Because if we lead into the A2, he applies a debuff spread effect, taking an unfeebled debuff from the initial target and placing it on all other enemies. But this one isn't protected, right? So we can actually cleanse this off and make sure that we don't get those weak hits on the boss itself, especially for enemy max HP, which is definitely the best way to speed farm this boss, right? But to coincide with that, there is going to be a decreased defense as well. So making sure you remove random debuffs or just a full out cleanse is the only way that you're going to be able to survive the onslaught that this boss is going to do to you. Finally, if there are no enemies under unfeebled debuffs at the end of this attack, we'll place an unfeebled debuff on the enemy with the highest crit damage for 3 turns again, and once again cannot be blocked or resisted. So just basically keeps them in the cycle of targeting that champion with the highest crit damage, to be, you know, like, destroy his day. They don't want to see him living the good life. On this A1, if you don't happen to cleanse that, he will attack all other enemies under Enfeeble, but it will only prioritize that single target that initially got put on if you do cleanse it. And each hit will fill Akamori's turn meter by 20%, so making sure you cleanse this off is going to stop him and get in that rhythm of taking multiple turns. So you want to basically bring in a cleanser, guys, okay? You want to bring in a cleanser. Now, if we head into the Wraith Javelin, which is the A4 skill, he will attack one enemy and will prioritize attacking those enemies under Enfeeble. If the Shade counter reaches 10, this attack will ignore block damage for anybody trying to implement that. At 20, it will ignore Unkillable. Maybe if you're trying to bring in Leorius to cheese it or somebody, you're not going to be able to do that. Or like Man-Eaters. And then at 30, will ignore Ally Protection. And at 40, will ignore shield buffs. And these are going to be strong forms of protection, and you want to be keeping that counter down as best as possible, especially if it's a longer fight, right? Or if you're just popping out multiple hits whilst under those Enfeebles. He does activate a shade counter at the start of the battle, so I believe that it's 5 or something like that. Whenever an enemy lands a weak hit on Akamori, this will increase by 8. So obviously you can imagine how quickly that can ramp up if you've not cleansed this off. And whenever Akamori lands that critical hit, increases the shade counter by 5, which is where bringing in decreased crit rate is going to be beneficial to alleviate those 5s ramping up over the course of a battle. Whenever the enfeeble debuff is removed or transferred from an enemy, right, or when its duration is fully decreased by an enemy champion, it will increase the shade counter by 2. So let's just say you cleanse them all off, right? He's going to be getting an immediate almost 10. Granted, you cleanse it off all of them, right? It will increase his crit rate and crit damage by 2% for each shade counter stacked. So you want to make sure you're mitigating this. And he's immune to turn meter reduction effects for anybody trying to gain turn meter control with somebody like a Law. But one thing that he cannot resist or cannot be immune to is decreased speed. So if you want to use turn meter increase and decrease speed to your advantage, which I will highlight in today's video, that's going to be an amazing way to get a full control over this boss to take as many turns as possible to utilize your champions. Now, another thing that the shade counter is going to do, once it reaches 10, he will not be able to receive poison damage, right? This is going to be a nasty time if you're trying to use Mithrala Lifebane. Whenever the shade counter reaches 20, he will not be able to receive HP burn, debuffs, or smite, well, damage from them, but you can place them. Whenever the shade reaches 30, he will not be able to receive damage from skills or masteries that scale off max HP. So, thinking about those Cold Hearts, Gnut, or Acrisia, they will all be nullified the second that you think about doing this. Shout out to Donald for the subscription, but I'm going to have to turn off notifications, but I'll leave that one in. If the shade counter does reach 40 though, or higher, all of Akamori's attacks will ignore 100% of the target's defense, and this is going to be a nasty time for anybody that gets striked above that counter. And pretty much if you reach there, you're going to be dead, right? Very similar to the Griffin. Once he reaches the counter of 20, he absolutely destroys your team, right? So you don't want to be letting him get to that threshold. Whenever an Awakened champion uses a skill against Akamori, there is a way to counter this with the shade counters. Because for every 1 level, you'll be able to reduce the counter. So 1 stack for level 1, 2 stacks for level 2, 3 stacks for level 3, and so forth, all the way up until the 6. So if you've got like 3 stars or 4 stars and you're kind of throwing them into this team, you're going to be able to keep that down as much as possible every single time that they take an attack. Granted, you don't have Enfeeble on to get those weak hits. And then heading down here to the Awakened weakness with the passive, he decreases the damage inflicted by the boss for each awakening level on the target champion, 2.5% for levels 1 to 2, going up to 25% for those 3 to 6 stacks. Increases the damage received by the boss for awakening levels as well, 5% for every levels, stacking up to 50%. So there's definitely ways to utilize blessings to really play to your advantage and take him down efficiently. So that's basically the fundamentals of this boss and how they've kind of broken it down in game and the ways that I've been studying over the past 24 hours. But this is a team that I've came up with, right? Now hear me out. I know that there's a few blessings in there. It's looking tedious, but we got to remember they have implemented this boss to utilize blessings, and although that I don't like it and I don't agree with it, I'm not a fan of it. This is basically the way to reduce those counters. And this is the team that took me 4 or 5 hours today. That's basically a prime example of how to speed farm, but not cheese it as well. Because we've got a 3-star blessing on Mithrala, we've got a 4-star blessing on Ruella, and a 3-star on my Cold Heart, and a 1-star on Kaima, and none on Gnut. So we haven't got 6-star blessings, kind of middle of the road, sitting in the middle. Just so you guys can see how the boss is interacting with this. And this is a speed farming method that you guys wanted to see without Riho Bone Spear, and someone like Ruella really comes in and puts in the work, and so does Mithrala Lifebane. So let's try this team. Let's go. So how this is going to work is, the debuffs are going to go on Kaima with the highest crit damage. We're placing decreased speed and decreased defense. We got resisted on the weak in there. We're doing max HP abilities, resetting here. Debuffs get spread. We cleanse it off with Mithrala Lifebane. Boost our turn meter to get more raw damage in. More Heart Seekers. We're going to place an increased defense and a Hex as well. Surviving the onslaught as well with the way that I built him. Decreased speed going out here again. Raw damage from max HP hits because the counters are getting dropped per hit. And then we've implemented Soul Reap Blessings to finish up the job, but it's not a necessity in order for victory, just something that I recommend. Now let's get this down to a 1 speed so I can break it down in a better format. You can see here that Stoneskin is in the team. He is now not going to target the Stoneskin and uses A3 on somebody that doesn't have the Stoneskin, okay? That's one of the changes that has been implemented. But one thing you can take note from is Cold Heart never got block passive skills. So being able to utilize this to your advantage is going to be beneficial. But there is a chance, as you see here, for it to get removed, okay? With that AE2, I believe, when he does the transfer effect, because he can remove a debuff or buff. So you need to pay attention to that and not think that putting Stoneskin everywhere is going to be the answer. Although that it can be utilized that way, I'll show you that later on. You definitely don't want to bank on a strategy like that. And I think that this team is pretty accessible, in a sense, right? Now, take away Kaimar for a second, who could be Yumiko, who can actually send debuffs back. Kaimar being one of the best because of the turn meter increase. Or maybe if you could speed tune a... See, Renegade could be an option, but you have to wait for those cooldowns as a 1, and 2, you need it to survive long enough to survive the onslaught being the crit damage target, unless you put that onto somebody like Mithrala Lifebane instead, right? Like, there could be changes to be made, but that could all come down the road as people get their hands on this boss, right? Let's try this one more time, because I did put a bunch of time into this. So we've explained how the mechanics are working. So, boom. Debuffs go out, block passive skills going on everybody else, Hex going out with increased defense, decreased defense and weaken and decreased speed going out here as well. Max HPs of Gnut hitting the cap with that drop defense, which I was struggling without it. Heartseeker going through. Transfer effect, Stoneskin stayed on for this time. We have speed tune for the removing of debuffs there. Turn meter fill, allowing us to take more turns. Boom, boom, smack. Go into one more Heartseeker. The boss is then going to do another ability here, potentially killing our Kaimar, which won't be a problem. With the Javelin skill, we managed to just stay alive. Decrease speed and drop defense going out again. Raw damage hits with Giant Slayer procs as well, coming out from Gnut. I felt like that was very beneficial. Potentially using the A1 with Giant Slayer as well on Cold Heart could have been a better way. And there is the Soul Reap. Go for a 2x speed. Just trying to show you a few times to show the consistency. I have seen maybe 1 or 2 fails in over 40 runs that I've tried. This is not 100% optimized, I would say. Like, for somebody that's looking to build this team and literally use it for the rest of their time on their account, they're going to be optimizing this to a T in terms of defense, HP, and keeping Kaimar alive. But I don't think it can get much better than this, guys. Like, this is a team that I don't think could ever get nerfed because I'm playing to the mechanics of the boss. I'm reducing those counters, using blessings. I am using max HP to my advantage. I've got a cleanse. And, you know, there's no cheese method going on here. And if we don't get the Soul Reap there, you can simply just use raw damage for the rest of it. And it does actually finish off the battle. And I've seen that beforehand as well. So, yeah. Prime example team, number 1. Now, second team. And remember, this is after the changes, guys. So it is live in the server, as you see. So this is no kind of cheese methods here. Next up is going to be the Riho Bonespear composition, which I did come up with first. And this is going to be utilizing 2 Cold Hearts to our advantage. Once again, I've only written Stoneskin, so you guys can see the difference of what's happened with the boss now. Riho Bonespear is phenomenal. Why is that going to be? Decreased crit rate. It's going to allow us to keep our Kaimar alive. She does a cleanse, as you see right here. And she also places decreased attack if we didn't get 3% resisted, and opens up the opportunity to use 3 max HP champions instead of 2. So in terms of the best team in the game, I think this is going to be it. Unless you've got someone like Acrizia that might cut some times off for you, right? But I don't see it being shaven anywhere below 19 seconds, right? Unless you've got like 3 Acrizias and a Gnut and you're just trying to kill this boss in 5 seconds. Maybe, right? But the fundamentals are going to be something like this. We need the reset, and boom. 22 seconds, somewhere between 19 and 22. A phenomenal team. Now, something that I have been working on for you guys is a different composition. Let's just move into here. And this was the implementation of a Miss Guurda Bogbrew. Now, one thing that I've been struggling with is trying to reach the cap of Gnut in the gear that I built him in today. I have optimized it. I just can't seem to reach that cap without drop defense on the boss. But that's something that's going to come to fruition over time once we understand what the defense levels of this boss is. So then we can determine the stats that we need on Gnut to reach the cap of the max HP. Now, also worth noting, he does decrease defense or mitigate defense with his A max HP ability. So you're going to see Cold Heart reaching the cap, but you won't see Gnut do it until the second phase. Now, watch how close I get here. Like, it's very close, okay? So, boom. We're going to open up with the Weaken of Guurda Theory. There we go. Max HP going through, and we're not reaching the cap. You see what I mean, guys? We're still very short in comparison to the 409,000 that we're seeing from these Heart Seekers, or 400Ks. It's not a huge discrepancy, but it's definitely noticeable. We're then going to use her A3 to cleanse these off and place a poison. So we've taken off that drop defense and enfeeble, so we don't get weak hits. Max HPs go through. And this is where my issue lies. I cannot finish off the boss because I'm not capping in terms of max HP. So it's like, I have seen a victory a few times, but I'm not going to say it's consistent as of yet. But look how close we are, man. Like, this would be consistent if we had the implementation of Soul Reap, okay? So for any players out there that have the luxury of having a high star blessing on Guurda, or you get a high star blessing on Gnut, or simply even a Prince Kaima, you'll be able to finish off once you reach those thresholds with that blessing to your advantage, right? You can see it come to fruition. We're going to do it again. Weaken goes out. There we go. Max HP nukes. Reset. Debuffs get thrown everywhere. We cleanse them off. Boom, boom, boom. Smacking them down. We did reach the cap on that final hit. And look at this, guys. Can you imagine here if Guurda Theory right there had a Soul Reap blessing? This boss would have been finished and it would have played to your advantage and you'd be in a happy place. So for players that don't have the Riho Bone Spear, you don't have Ruella, or you don't want to use Mithrala for this, you could simply use a strategy like this, but it is going to need Guurda Theory in this composition, as it's very rare to find a champion that can cleanse debuffs, but also place decreased defense or weaken. Now, another option would be Miss Ugo from the Ogrin Tribes faction, which I did try, but of course, it's the wrong affinity for stage 24, which is what I will be farming. But if you want to go into stage 25 and use it, it could be an opportunity once again, we're just falling short by not reaching the cap. So it's something that's going to have to be played with over time. But I just wanted to show you the fundamentals of something that could work down the line. So really cool teams that I've managed to come up with over the past 24 hours. I'm pretty proud of them. But what I want to do now is show you how the boss is interacting with Stoneskin, okay? I'll show you all of the presets as well, and the gear and the masteries. Don't worry, guys. Straight after this. I've got a few champions that I built in Stoneskin just for this demonstration. Heartseekers. And UDK, where are you, buddy? There he is. Okay, here we go. Now, this is for people that's thinking, oh, what happens if you put Stoneskin on everybody? Well, here we go, guys. Okay. Now, the boss is going to try still use his skills. You see that there? He still uses A3, which is the plot passive skills, which is actually playing to our advantage here. Nobody got on feeble, so no one's getting weak hits. It's definitely playing here. A great playing field, right? Heartseekers, let's just put some skills out. We're not trying to look for victories. Just trying to show you what it's going to do. Now here, he uses A1. He didn't choose to use this skill here, which is going to do the debuff spread effect. Whereas when we don't have Stoneskin, he's not going to be using this, right? So, or he would be using this. So it seems like he's waiting for everybody to wear off. He's like, oh, we found out there's Stoneskin there. We're not going to use that now. And now we're going to use the A1. Now, this is where I think there was maybe some miscommunication errors when myself and some other content creators was asking if this is a bug beforehand. Because the ways that it was working before was he was only using his A1 skill until Stoneskin dropped off, meaning that you can literally stop every single skill you're supposed to do. But what I think they was trying to say was he would be using his A1 as a priority on the Stoneskin, but this was supposed to open up and use his other skills for targets that's not under it. So I think that's how it was intended to work, because the other way, I was skeptical as well at first. Like, the worst thing that I would want for viewers, of mine anyway, would be building up a composition, trying to cheese this boss, you're like happy days, and then they nerf it once it's in the live server. And you'll be wasting your resources, wasting your time, getting angry. So it's better that this stuff is changed now, and we can find out these strategies for once it goes into the live server, so you guys know exactly what to build that's not going to be nerfable. And I think that's very important, right? We do have... So let's just carry this on here. So here now, he's going to start placing the Enfeeble because the skills are finished now. Or the Stoneskin started to wear off. And now we're getting absolutely shredded. So it seems like there's like a 2 turns. If you put everybody in Stoneskin, you could get away with a fast victory. But if it does fall off, you'll be in a bad situation. But it comes down to, do you have enough gear to make your team work in a full Stoneskin build? It's going to be a tedious task, right? Or maybe just have one champion without it, and I don't know. But that's basically how it's going to be working, and you've seen it in the previous battles as well. So in terms of the presets, we have a Gnut on team number 1, max HP, we're blocking off the A2, with Ruella here as well, doing some abilities. So for opening here, first priority on Brimming Silex, and then we've got first priority on Heartseekers, and then Prince Kaima, we're leaving him as so, because he's pretty decent in the way his AI works, but usually I would say first priority here. We want to do this, he's the slowest in our team, we want him to cycle those skills. And then we've got this ability with the no respite on our opener for all of these debuffs. And then also the first priority here and the second priority here. On the next team, where is it? Oh my god, I'm losing the track of it. The Riho Bone Spear one was first priority, very similar thing. Opening with the A2, first priority, Heartseeker, Heartseeker. And with the Guurda Bobru, very similar thing. Guurda, open over the weaken, and then the cleanse. Because that's basically the turn cycle that the boss is going to take. And in terms of these champions that I have built today, we have got Holtar. This is just Stoneskin randomly. You do not need this to happen, but she's going at 200 plus speed, and I feel like that's optimal for this champion. And enough crit damage as well. Same with this one. Enough crit damage and above 200 speed. Masteries, we've gone for Helm Smasher on both of them, but I maybe might consider Giant Slayer, because if you can use that A1 to pair with Ruella, you could have a field day with Phantom Touch Blessings, so that could definitely play to your advantage. Prince Kaima, I decided to put in a shield set, to basically to mitigate him dying, and of course this isn't a way that you'd want to use him, but he needs to be slow, or he could be fast, but he has to have high sustainability and open up with another skill first, so we could cycle around to the reset on the next one. But if you've got a spare Kaima, this is like the optimal way to use it in bolster or shield. He's going at 187 speed, basically going slowest of the bunch here. Masteries, basically random stuff, War Master, doesn't really matter on him to be fair. Guurda Bobru's just in Perception, we're going at plus 400 accuracy with the aura as well of Gnut's, and 245 speed to be the fastest in my composition. Perception gear for accuracy, and we're going to time compression, which I use elsewhere, or oppressor. Is that oppressor? I'm so intrigued now. Oppressor, there we go. We've got Gnut in a Giant Slayer as well, in a Savage build. Going at 47,000 HP, 4.8k defense, 225 speed, 100% crit rate, 235% crit damage, and accuracy and resistance we're not caring about in this particular build. You could probably drop down a lot from that with drop defense and weaken, but I'm just trying to mid-max here. Riho Bone Spear is going at 267 speed. Basically, just needs to be fastest and high enough accuracy to place her debuffs in accuracy or blessings here, or masteries, or elsewhere in the game. And before the Life Bane, same kind of blessings. You could go Giant Slayer to get a full advantage, or War Master. Random gear, just enough accuracy and speed that I need, and the tune with the way that the presets are set up. And Ruella is going in Perception as well. Going at these, we haven't got enough crit rate, crit damage. We've got good speed, good accuracy. That's all I'm really caring about. We do have books around the boards, of course, trying to optimize that. And then you want to be going down to at least a sniper here. I don't know why I put this one on. I would say probably miss one of these. Go to sniper, try and get that bonus chance from an A2 because there's not a 100% chance. But it's more often than not, you're going to get the weaken or the drop defense or the decreased speed because it's a 75% chance, I believe. 70% chance on each here in order to place these debuffs, going up to that 75% once you've got the masteries on with sniper. But yeah, guys, that is going to be all for today's video. If you guys did enjoy it, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button. Let me know what you think about the changes. Are these teams that you would be considering to build for the speed farming methods? And let me know in the comment section below some options that you may feel would be viable for the foreseeable future of the Phantom Shogun's Grove. Have an amazing rest of your day, and I'll catch you guys on a video soon. Peace.